So it's been another week. I usually do these in the morning, but today was a long day of errands. So I'm doing it later in the afternoon because I'm going to keep these up. Got 26 points. Quite a lot of points. Definitely a bit more lower in energy, a bit tired. It's been a long Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday morning. It's been pretty long. But let's get right into it. Number one, last week there was like a cold snap. And I couldn't go on an afternoon walk because it was rainy and boring. So I was forced to have an early night and just sort of get some chores done. And I realized that, like, I was like, wow, like I got a ton of chores done. Today was really, really productive when it comes to chores, I guess. And I really felt that like winter sort of meant for hibernation, where during winter you spend that time organizing a house, doing different chores and fixes around your house indoors, because during summer you want to spend all your afternoons going out to the beach, going to the um, pool and meeting friends. That's number one. Hey Nat,
Hey.
how's everything? How's your day today? What's your thoughts on the haircut? I cut my hair short. I haven't had my hair short in quite some time.
Oh, when did you get your hair cut?
Today, just then.
Oh, just now. Oh, nice. Looks good. Looks fresh.
Where you at?
I'm currently sitting outside a cafe.
Ah, nice. How's the weather?
It's super chilly, but in a very nice way. It's not that bad. It's not cold. It's not warm. It's like spring weather or autumn weather that you would sort of want all year long.
That's cool. I don't
Yeah.
usually on these calls, I sort of like today I have like 26 points. I went through point number one and I have like another 25, I guess. So I guess I'll go through them and then I definitely would love to get your thoughts and 2 cents. But I usually just like ramble on and just sort of like talk about random stuff.
Nice. Um, is it usually like with people as well, or like?
You're probably I out of this is probably episode six, and I think
Oh, oh,
three out of
nice.
six of them had another person. I haven't
Uh-huh.
figured out the best format on what to do. I know on the ones where there's no guest, I just sort of go through each points and thoughts I've been thinking about throughout the week. But I guess with the friend, I haven't figured out the best format for these sort of lessons, I guess. Still trying to figure it out.
Cool, cool. Yeah, it's so cool. Like every week you have this, like there's just notes from it, and um, it's
Yeah.
so cool how there's three right now. So E, Mitch, and
Oh, I think these are all
is it automatic?
the autopilot. So just me and you right now. There's Mitch isn't here.
Uh,
Ed isn't here. It's just me and you right now.
oh, because on the screen I see like three other ones. So cool though.
Yeah, I got confused the
Yeah,
first time as well. Like I remember episode number two, all these I think I don't know how you sign up for it. I don't know if it's part of your email or something, but it
yeah.
shows up and I'm like, is Mitch there? I can't tell, but and I realized it was just me the whole time. Yeah.
Cool, cool.
Number two, I've been recently one of my friend has like he's been pushing me to read the New Testament, the Bible basically. So I've been slowly chipping away at it. Um, and there was this quote that I put down. I think it goes, "What do you think? If a man has 100 sheep and one of them has gone astray, does he not leave the 99 on the mountains and go search of the one that went astray?" And I sort of, as I was reading that, I sort of really thought of like people and friends and how like sort of like I think as a people pleaser, I've always wanted to sort of chase and keep every single friend in my life. But I'm sort of realizing that it's sort of like chasing that one sheep that's gone astray. It's sort of not worth sort of changing. But then I guess there are circumstances where there are people that you really care about that is worth going astray for. Um, yeah, not too sure.
Interesting. And how long is this book itself, like the New Testament?
I think the
How
New
many?
Testament's probably like, I don't know, because I've been reading it on my phone, so it doesn't really give context on how thick it is. But my friend showed, I think it's like that thick, so I guess it's pretty thick.
Oh wow. Okay, so it's more like a I don't know how fast you read. Perhaps like a month long read or
Maybe it'll take me
more.
slower. I've been doing a thing where every morning I'll read three
Yeah.
chapters, or not three chapters, but like it's sort of like three
Yeah.
verses.
Yeah.
For example, I finish, it's put into, I guess, I don't know, like the New Testament might have four books called Matthew, John, I can't remember the other two names. And then there's Act, and then there's a bunch of letters.
Yeah.
And I finished one, and that took me, that Matthew was maybe 28 verses slash chapters. I was doing 3 days. So that took me, I guess, like a bit more than a week. Um, so I don't know how long it'll take to read the whole thing, but I'll slowly chip away at it each morning. But I'm still sort of
Yeah.
reading
So,
books each night, like a different book. I've been reading like
yeah.
Benjamin Franklin each night.
I I feel like that's the best way to go about it. Like, because there's no point like reading a whole book and
Yeah,
then like forgetting all the information. I feel
yeah,
like I don't know, repeating it afterwards is fine.
I agree.
Like one line per day and help you go through the
I agree.
day. Yeah.
Point number three. There was this book called sort of 48 Laws of Power, and one of the laws was like you should never accept a free meal or you should never accept a free steak. It's sort of saying like when you sort of ask for something or someone gives you something, you accept it, you're sort of like low key indebted to them.
Yeah.
Um, and then I sort of thought of something else like you should never accept a free compliment without returning one. Um, and I think, yeah, like if someone's giving you a compliment, you sort of do want to try return it and find something to compliment them with. Because if you just take it, it's sort of like taking a free steak that someone's bought you.
True. Yeah. That's an interesting point. Lesson.
Num
Interesting. Okay.
Number four. I feel like there's a direct correlation between like how common a investment strategy is versus how common the rewards as outcome be. Like it's so strange how like everyone talks about sort of buying an investment property, renting it out. So I think they call it rent vesting. And then every 5 years, refinance, pull some money out and get the second house, third house, and fourth house. And this is sort of what everyone freaking does. And it's weird how like no one just simply just buys a house, spend the next 10, 12, 13 years, pay off that one house as quickly as possible. Once you have no debt, buy the second house and just like do it slow and steady. And I feel like that slow and steady route, I have a gut feeling the fact that like not many people talk about that and it feels it feels like the right path of like you get one thing, you pay it off, you get a second thing, you pay it off, and obviously it'll slowly sort of snowball. But everyone's sort of trying to like rent, invest, refinance, pay interest only. And it's something that everyone keeps talking about. And if everyone's talking about something, I'm very skeptical of how good of a strategy it would be. Hmm. Um, Number five. Last Sunday, I was like mentally like exhausted. Like I was just so down and out. And then I remember that upcoming Thursday, mentally I was sort of back on track. I was feeling good. I was feeling positive. But physically, like my body was just so exhausted. Like I couldn't get work done. I remember napping and then like I would do power naps, and after 18 minutes, I'd wake up. And like after 18 minutes, I snooze the timer, another 18 minutes went by, snoozed it again, and all of a sudden, like 3, 4 hours went by. And like that night, I had 7.5 hours of sleep. So it wasn't like that I had lack of sleep. But I think my body just completely let itself go. So I was like quite surprised that I was like, wow, like I'm starting to notice the difference between when I'm like physically exhausted versus when I'm like mentally or spiritually exhausted. Maybe mentally and spiritually, those are two different things. I'm not too sure. But right now, since I can't really tell the difference, I'm gonna pull it into one. But I was surprised how like being physically exhausted, like my brain being tired physically, um, that would also like refrain me from getting work done that day.
Yeah. And it's so incredible how you are aware of that and you don't really make yourself feel bad about it. Like the way you put it just now, like you acknowledge it and you don't really shame yourself for it. So that's really impressive.
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to. Then
Mhm,
point number six was I think that happened on a day. And I only worked 1 hour that day, and I felt pretty bad. I felt pretty guilty.
mhm,
But then I remember checking my Excel sheet because I've been tracking my hours, and I was like, wow, ever since I've been back from Vietnam, for the last 53 days straight, there hasn't been a day where I've worked less than 2.5 hours. And
mhm.
like, if I average out the 53 days, I've been like averaging 7.5 hours every single day for the last 53 days. And just seeing that, I was like, wow, like, okay, like maybe I shouldn't beat myself up. For some reason, I thought like I was crashing and burning every week.
Yeah.
Um, but like those crashes and burning, like I'd still put in maybe 5 hours, 4 hours on those days. So I was like, huh, I'm actually doing okay. It's not as bad as I thought.
Wow, that's so cool. You track your hours. Um, I mean, it's like a corporate job, but you do it for yourself as an entrepreneur, right? So,
Yeah, I think in my mind, now I was like, one, like I want to track my hours to see how much I was working. And like to be honest, I was struggling to average 40-hour weeks.
mhm.
I was like, my goal is to do like 40 hours weeks. I'd like to like at least match how much the everyday person would be working.
But to be honest, I feel like even if it is 40 hours in a corporate world, are those people actually like focused working all those 40 hours, or is it like busy work? Do you know what I mean? Like instead of
Is
like,
that
yeah, I don't know.
I do feel like there's like lunchtime, break time, talking with like coworkers.
Mhm.
Like on top of that, like even if it was productive, it's sort of productive doing the same tasks day in, day out. Whereas like my 40 hour average, it's sort of like actual tracked work time as
Yeah,
well. It's like I'm constantly context switching and I'm not ever doing the same thing day in, day out.
yeah.
I was like, if I can at least do 40 hours tracked plus like 40 hours as like a business owner, then like I'd be pretty happy. So that's been the goal at the moment.
So,
Number seven, if someone's a good, this is something I learned from a friend. I was walking by the park. I had a friend that used to live next door and she moved. And I randomly bumped into her while walking at the nearby park, the same park
oh
that
wow.
you
Okay.
walked. We went walking together.
Mhm.
Um, and she said a good friend would never ask you to borrow some money. And I sort of like, it was like, huh, I've never thought of that. But I sort of let it sit. And I was like, huh, that's an interesting point because like before I'd like, before I even consider asking or borrowing someone for money, like I'd have to like spend all the money that I've had, go broke, sell whatever I have that might be not a need. And then if I go through all those things, then maybe I'd sort of um, burden some friends and ask to borrow some money. And it sort of made me think back, like I had a close friend in university and he asked to borrow money and then I lent it to him. Then he asked to borrow money again. I lent it to him, and he returned the first time. And the second time, for some reason, it took much, much longer for him to return it. He sort of, and he also ghosted me for a bit, but then eventually he did return the money. But he like really like it was a I was put in a very uncomfortable position. And I guess based on what she said and looking back, it's sort of it's not. it wasn't the best thing. Like it wasn't nice of him to put me in such a tough position. And I guess, yeah, but then I do understand how in some circumstances it's okay to like borrow some money. But yeah, it was just like a quote she said. I guess it's quite um ones and zeros, and it's not like it doesn't really take into account the in-betweens. But I found it interesting.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah, I mean, I think it's like the degree of the friendship. I don't know.
Hmm. Number 8, another quote from the New Testament. Um, the quote is, "From the fig tree learns its lesson. As soon as its branch becomes tender and put out its leaves, you know that summer is near." Um, yeah, when I saw that quote, like for some reason, um, like I've been looking for like a partner, a soulmate, someone that I can sort of go through this life with, like a best friend.
Mhm.
And I realized that like the fact that I am sort of starting to like connect with like cool people like yourself, Nat, and surround with myself with like interesting people, it's like a sign
Yeah.
that sort of the soulmate hopefully is near. Just like how a fig tree, as it sort of bears leaves, summer's come. So that's sort of what I thought of when I sort of heard that quote.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting quote. Yeah, I feel like I don't know, like this is how I found my like previous relationship, but
Mm,
I feel like the best friendships or even like relationships, it's when you're not kind of looking for it.
mm, mm, mm.
Um, it's when you're sort of so focused on like sort of growing yourself, but also I don't know, like being open but not necessarily like forcing anything or yeah, I don't know. That's just what I feel.
I like that. I think
Um,
so too. I think you're
but I
right.
love that quote. I love that quote. So cool. It can be put in like so many different contexts.
Yeah, yeah. The thing I found really interesting, because like the Bible is basically just filled with a bunch of quotes,
Yeah.
and sort of so, um, it's sort of you can reread it at different points of time and have a completely different interpretation or thought. And that's been pretty cool reading through. I was like, oh, like this is like a super cool personal development book.
And you
Um,
don't have to follow it like religiously as well, right? It's up to your interpretation. That's so cool. Yeah.
hmm. Number 9, I was watching like The Walking Dead, one of the newest season that came out, where like Rick, the main character, comes back. But there was a quote from it that said, "Just believe a little longer." And I think it was sort of like this sort of Japanese sort of kanji or something, and that's sort of what it meant. And I was like, huh, like just believe a little longer. It was so sort of nice to hear. Like as I repeat it again, it's like just believe a little longer. And it sort of applies to so many aspects where it's like finding sort of a soulmate, or sort of my business and it panning out, or me sort of feeling down and tired and wondering when I'm going to sort of be recovered. Um, Me just sort of getting through to the last hour of like say a really packed day, and sort of, or me sort of losing hope that things are going to work out. And sort of just like, just believe a little longer.
Just believe a little. Love it. Hope hope is everything, right?
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's crazy how like in movies, like those sort of propaganda, those like dystopian movies, all the dystopian dictators try to crush hope. And it seems like
Mm.
some hope is, I guess, more powerful than you think. But I guess that's something I haven't thought about, like the definition of hope, what hope is, what it feels like. What's your thoughts on hope? What do you think hope is?
I think hope is purpose and hope is like a like even the word itself, you feel something when you say it, right? I don't know, like you have such a connotation in your brain and like it just it brings you out of the darkest places. And I don't know, hope can mean so many things. I don't
Num
know if you've read Man's Search for Meaning.
I haven't.
That's sort of like the main topic, like overall overreaching theme of the book. But
Mm,
it's the author, he went and survived through the concentration camps. So hope was like his overall like how he survived the concentration camps. And he's a psychologist and um, yeah, so he went through all the torture and everything. And
I'm curious, like
yeah,
when people like say hope, like I guess what comes to your mind? Because as you were sharing your definition now, I was like, okay, if I'm down and out and I want to hope, I feel like I sort of need to tie the hope to something. I guess like I hope
yeah.
that tomorrow is going to be better. I hope that a small win is going to come my way. Um,
Um,
like just hope in general that like things would work
yeah,
out.
I don't know. I feel like hope for me is like, yeah, a better future, like where you're happy
Mm,
and you are living the vision that you created, like and feeling that vision as well, and you feel the love of like close family members or the love of your life, and yeah, I don't know, that's hope.
I have like a very similar something that really resonates with me is sort of faith, like having faith that things are going to work out. Like I believe, and I have faith that things are going to pan out. I believe that tomorrow is going to be a
Mhm.
better day. I have faith that things are going to work itself out. I have faith that there's a reason for this roadblock to have come in my life, and it's tough, but I have faith that I'm going to be able to push through. I don't know if it's. I guess if I replace those words with hope, it might not make sense. I don't know if it's completely different
True.
to hope, but that's been something that has been really resonating to me, sort of having faith.
Mm, that's a good word. Yeah. Faith. So many, yeah, connotations.
Number 10, on the topic of sort of soulmates, like another thing that I found really cool as I was watching The Walking Dead and just seeing the main character like reunite with his sort of like partner after 5 years, like I was like, huh. Um, long story short, I think the main character, he was like put in a prison for 5 years. He really lost his sense of self, lost his confidence, lost just like he just lost himself, and she was able to sort of believe in him when he didn't. I was like, huh, like I really want, like I guess it doesn't have to be just a soulmate, but just like people in my life in general. Like I'd want someone that can believe in me when I don't, and I think that's such a powerful thing. And I try my best to sort of do the same for others and really sort of remind others on how amazing they are as a person when they might not think they are. And I think I'd really want to find someone or people or some people that can sort of believe in me when I don't.
That
Yeah.
is, yeah. I mean, especially like the route you're going as well, right? Like if it's not easy, and having people who support you relentlessly is gonna be uh, what's the word for it? A push it. Motivation. No, not motivation. That's not strong enough. I don't know the word for it.
Has my back, able to sort of maybe share the burden, share the weight, maybe even just remind me, just
Yeah.
even be there just to remind me of like who I am, because I'm not always going to be the strong leader, the person that bears the weight that I guess I try to be and I work towards. There's going to be times where like I'm just crushed and I don't know if I'm even worthy to be of that and to have someone be able to sort of pick up the pieces and help rebuild me. I think that's something I would like really love. Yeah.
Mhm.
Number 11. this one's also like a ones and zero thing. It's sort of like very blunt, but I guess we can unpack it. But I have a theory that if someone doesn't like me, it's a red flag for that person. So, like, let's say
Mm,
you introduce me to
yeah,
a friend of yours, and for some reason they just don't like me.
yeah.
I don't know. I've gained a bit of confidence to be like, it's not me, it's them.
Um,
Um, and I don't think like this scenario doesn't happen often. But I sort of know that like I have a lot of people that are really amazing people that value me and like me. So
yeah,
that if someone doesn't like me, it's like I used to, as a people pleaser, blame myself and think why they don't like me, how I can make them like what am I doing wrong? And I've finally recently been able to gain the confidence to be like, I think it's something to do with them, and it's
yeah.
like a red flag.
Um, that's a good point. I think I don't know. In my opinion, I feel like it's just uh, if someone doesn't like someone, it's a reflection of their own insecurities um and yeah, and I don't know. I feel like just never take things personally these days. Yeah.
I think that we'll get to some of the later points. I'm such like an emotional person, even though I'm quite logical, even though I sort of
Hmm.
deal and handle with quite a lot of things. I'm constantly putting out fires, but I feel every single burn, every single house burn, that comes my way.
And that's a superpower because not a lot of people feel that these days. People just numb themselves. So yeah, you're very strong for doing that.
Yeah, thank you, Nat. Um, I feel like I need to figure out like a way to do these calls because it's such a these sessions, it's so selfish where I'm just talking about things that I'm thinking about. But then I guess when I sort of spend time one on one with other people, I don't really talk about myself and I'm just
Yeah.
hearing about what
Yeah.
other people are. So, but like yeah, I sort of set these up where I can be selfish, but then I feel a bit guilty when there is another guest and I'm just talking about myself the whole time.
Don't be guilty. I mean, that's what you kind of set this to be, right? So I think people go into it knowing that and
Yeah.
it's sort of yeah.
Um, okay, number 12. A person who says they don't really care about what other people think
Yeah.
actually are the ones that
Yes.
really care about what people think.
Yes. Um, I feel like that's like a coping mechanism.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
And then
that's a good point.
if someone is sort of like usually like actors, the ones that are pretty good, like I don't know, say someone like Timothy Chalamet or someone like Austin Butler. Like I've seen interviews where they're like, yeah, I'm a pretty emotional, like I feel things, I'm quite introverted, like things sort of like things hit me harder than others, I feel like. But then ironically, they're like the most confident, secure person. They're like doing sort of walkways and they're dressing in crazy looking sort of outfits. Um, so I feel like the people who say they really care about what other people think are also ironically the people that don't care about what people think the most.
Yeah, I feel like everything we see is like sometimes the opposite of what actually is.
Mhm.
Everything just is like paradoxical. So yeah, I mean, reality is so interesting.
I agree.
Focus on, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah,
Number 13. I was like meeting someone. I was just sort of asking questions as I usually do, Nat. You sort of
yeah.
absurdly just ask questions. And if someone feels like I'm interrogating them or they feel like I'm psychoanalyzing and I'm just sort of curiously asking them questions,
Hmm.
there's a good chance that they're a bit of like an insecure person because I could do
Mm,
the exact same thing to someone that's secure, and they're like, wow, like Andy's like asked me so many cool questions, and I could do the exact same thing to someone else, and they'll be like, dude, why are you interrogating me?
true, true. Do you think it's like the level of boundaries as well for people? I
Yeah,
don't know.
that might be it. Like I'm probably maybe asking questions that are out of their comfort zone.
Comfort zone. Yeah, exactly. And
Um,
maybe they're not used to it as well, being so introspective. I don't know.
that's true. Because
I don't
like
know.
if I get bored, that's what I usually start doing. I start just asking like out of the comfort questions because I'm bored of this small talk. I can either like unpolitely leave early from this, or I could sort of
That,
entertain myself and like push the boundaries and ask interesting questions that may or may not be in their comfort zone.
that- that's the way to go.
Number 14. Um, in The Walking Dead in the last season, they talked about how the people are like, there's like all the dead zombies, they're like dead, but also all the people that are currently alive in this dead world, they're also dead, and you have to be dead to survive. Basically saying you have to be ruthless, you have to be willing to sacrifice certain communities for the greater good, I guess in that sense. But for some reason, what I took from that was like when you grow up and become an adult and you start doing adult things, you can, or most people sort of die. They lose that enchanted view on the world. Um, like the moment you become an adult, like, yeah, like you sort of die. Like all of a sudden you're not having fun. All of a sudden you're not appreciating the little things in life. All of a sudden you're not being wow and in awe of interesting things. And I think, um, I want to keep believing. Like I want to keep having that childlike sort of view on the world, and I don't want to let myself, quote unquote, die. And I think there was this sort of Winnie the Pooh quote where at the end, Christopher, the kid, he goes to school, and the quote said, even though Christopher goes to school, he'll continue remembering and playing with Winnie the Pooh and his friends in the Enchanted Forest, or something along those lines. But it's basically saying that even though that Christopher's growing up and going to school, he's never going to forget the fun times he's had, and he's going to keep remembering and keep believing. So I was like, wow, like it was such a beautiful thing. And I was like, huh, like when you become an adult, it does feel like when you go to the city and you see everyone on public transport, everyone going to work, everyone low key does look like dead zombies, ironically. Yeah.
Um, that's interesting. What do you think? Like, is that why like a lot of I feel like yeah, adults just forget to also play as well. And I think that's why I don't know, like people have hobbies and how play is important and
Yeah, and like I realized like if you look at people like say the Dalai Lama or Einstein, I can't think of another example. Um,
Jay Shetty.
yeah, Jay Shetty, um, they still have that sort of like they feel alive. They still have that spark. And I think
Yeah,
that spark is something you see in all children. Now I'm thinking about it. All children have that similar spark, and
yeah.
that spark gets killed as you become an adult. And when you look,
Or is it becoming an adult or is it becoming someone that you're not?
mm,
Or doing things that you're not aligned with? Because I don't know, like I know adults supposedly who are I don't know an age you would say is an adult, but they are not zombies, I guess, and yeah, and they're doing what they love and
mm,
aligning that with I don't know, aging. I don't know. So
that's a good
yeah,
point. Yeah, because like Kobe, someone that's like this driven basketball player, like he had that spark, And I think you're right, it's sort of doing what you love because as a kid, you just sort of did what you loved, whether you drawed or you played with toys or you ran around. Um, there wasn't any expectation. You just did what you love. And when you grow up, that becomes less and less of an option. That gets weeded out of your routine through primary school, then high school, then university. All of a sudden
Yeah.
now you're not doing what you love and you're forcing yourself to do things that you don't love and the spark starts fading away.
Mm, interesting. Um, yeah.
Number 15. Let's see what did I write. I do know I feel so interesting. I remember this thought. I realized that like I have like friends where I sort of because I put in effort and I try to listen, I sort of
Mhm.
know what's going on in their life. If I don't, I ask. And sort of when they post on their stories, like I know what that is. Oh, like that's the trip he recently went to. Oh, that's the housewarming that he went talked about going to that night. So that must be that. So I sort of know what's going when watching other people's story. And I feel like since I don't know, either I do a lot of things or maybe people don't have the same amount of curiosity as I do, I can post a ton of stories that people are seeing for the first time. And I guess like it's like, huh, like how could they dig those stories out of me through conversation? I guess like it's a bit tough, but like I do feel like I could post a ton of stories and people would be close friends would be like watching it for the first time and they're sort of hearing it or learning about it through my Instagram posts
Mhm.
rather than learning it from me directly. Whereas with other people's live, I sort of usually learn and hear about what they're doing through them directly. And then once it goes on the story, I'm like, oh, that's what he talked about.
Yeah.
So I guess it goes to sort of like um, being able to sort of fill other people's frames, but other people's maybe struggling to sort of fill my frame or sort of get to know my frame. So that was point 15. Point 16. I'm starting like over the last 2 or 3 months, like I'm starting like when I'm like tired, like for example, driving home like 2 hours ago, like I was sort of just driving in silence. Like I'm starting to be at my mental cap where I'm not listening to music while driving and just sort of driving in silence, feeling how I feel. Because I know when you listen to music, it's like a dopamine hit. It's fun. You distract yourself. It's sort of adding more to the play. So when I work, I try to work in silence, and I'm realizing, huh, like I guess like I currently don't have the mental capacity to always listen to music. Obviously, if I force myself, I can play music all the time. But I think sort of listening to myself, I'm like, huh, I'm sort of like capped out.
Interesting.
Number 17. Um, this is yeah, so these are all points I've been writing today.
Mhm.
Um, One of our friends asked a question, who's your best friend and why? And I realized that question is quite like it's like the question low key like hurts. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like a hurtful question low key. And like I was just like reflecting, I was like, because like you can then say, okay, you're sort of probably the closest person in my life, and then you reciprocate, you ask, what about you? And they'll just mention someone completely different. And it's like a hurtful question, low key, that best friend question.
Yeah.
Number 18 is that from that, I was like, huh, like it's sort of, all I can do is focus on being the best person I can be and just focus on me. rather than trying to focus on being other people's best friends or being what other people need. Because I think, it feels nice to be someone's best friend. But if you keep striving for that, you sort of then lose yourself. And it's sort of like this never-ending chase. So it's like I constantly have to remind myself that all I can do is just focus on me and be the best version I can be and be the best version that I can show up for others. And paradoxically, ironically, by doing that, I might end up being a bunch of people's best friends. But obviously, like that's not something I want to focus on, and I want to try not to focus on. Yeah. Um, Point number 19. Um,
Sorry, I think my laptop's on 10%, so I'll if it jumps off randomly,
totally fine.
I can hop on my phone. There we go.
Number 19 out of 26. Let's see. Okay. So I realized that it's probably like it's something I need to work on, but I do feel like I do have like high expectations for people and friends just because I have the capacity to like run a business, bleed out, run out of money, have 10 employees to worry about, be able to like look after my own household, worry about my mom and my sisters and worry about my dad and at the same time also be able to reply to when friends need help and sort of be there for others and listen to others and being able to just feel their frame completely and sort of know what they're sort of currently going through and what their trajectory looks like and their goals are for the next year. Whereas, you know, other people might just struggle to reply to my messages. Or like when I'm maybe signaling like, hey, like this is sort of like it's like a light signal, like, hey, like this is a signal that I might be feeling down. Um, I guess like I'm able to do all of that despite having a lot going on. And I do understand that everyone has a lot going on their end. But I think it's sort of what I'm learning is like one, it's sort of the expectations that I shouldn't be setting expectations. Two, rather than seeing what people aren't able to feel, see what they are able to feel and sort of really focus on their strengths and see
Mhm,
really, really practicing and learning to like fill my own cup, like be my own backup, like have my own back. I think and not sort of expect it or need it from others. Or maybe what I did was have like a few friends I can reach out to, and two out of the three were able to get back to me and sort of really show me the support I was looking for and maybe diversify. So I guess those are maybe the four different solutions to that point.
I feel like yeah, as you grow up and up the level of life, yeah, some people aren't able to live up to your level, right? And as you should, I feel like set up those and not really expectations, but at least like you can't make friends with everyone, right? And that's a reason for it because you're on a different growth path and yeah, and not everybody will understand that. If we try to make those sort of people understand it, it's like
That's true.
it's forcing relationships that don't need to be forced and they're not worth it. I feel like.
I think the scary thing is like what I'm noticing, even with like trying to find people like I guess quote unquote soulmate or just friends. Some people
Mhm,
that brought light to me, my one of my close friends brought light was like, hey, like I was like, wow, I realized that like all the people I have in my life right now can totally understand and empathize with me 2, 3 years ago. And like I wish they like the people I have in my life were in my life now, currently me 2, 3 years ago. And I guess the moment I find, say, like someone that is able to relate to me now, say in a year's time, because my circle keeps evolving, by then the needs would have all like increased. And it's this never ending sort of this thing of like I'm always growing. I'm always sort of finding that I guess like for example, it's unfair for me to expect people to like send signals. Like if I give out a signal saying, hey, this is something's happened, like I'm getting sued, um, I'm pretty stressed, but here's how I replied. It's like basically a signal saying, hey, like I'd like to get your thoughts, or maybe if like I'd really love if you just randomly called me to sort of maybe see where I'm at with that issue, because that's sort of what I'll do. It's like I somehow have the fifth sense to just call someone when I feel like maybe they're going through a rough patch, or like I have a friend that sort of they're going to have a baby on the 19th of April. So I've been consecutively checking in each week because I guess that's what I would like if my wife or if I was about to have a kid. And I guess as I keep growing, I keep getting more and more intuitive, and I start like I guess let's say like let's see what's the next stage. Like I could get to a point where I'm like um maybe like let's like get to a point where like I'm in the area and now I'm dropping off baby food just because I was in the area. Like I guess that's something I haven't done. Like now I'm just sort of reaching out to people. Like as I keep growing, I guess my expectations keep heightening and it becomes this never-ending sort of thing. And I guess I'm still trying to figure out if that's the issue or maybe something else. But yeah, these are just these thoughts and hypotheses, and I think as I keep thinking about it, eventually I'll come to like a conclusion.
I, I can't wait to hear that conclusion.
Mm.
Um, yeah, sorry if my responses are a bit like,
No, totally fine, totally fine.
yeah.
This is perfect. 20. I caught up with an old friend that I used to swim with 2 years ago. He was like helping me with some sort of fish tank stuff. And like, I was just sitting there. I was like really thankful that he gave me some parts that I needed. And I was like really curious. Like I'm like really nice. And he's been following me from Instagram. So like he would say things like, oh, like you've been around the world. Like he'll say little stuff like that. And I try to really downplay it because I really want to be humble and not make people feel uncomfortable. But he's been watching from afar and like I try, like, I guess maybe I overcorrect or something, but like these friends are like they get really confused by the kindness and humbleness because I guess if they had what I had, they'd be pretty, I guess, maybe confident or maybe cocky or like maybe forget old friends. But I sort of hit them with like a lot of like I just sort of like they're just sort of like they just don't know how to deal with it. Like I'm just really, really nice. Like I'm like um what's a good metaphor? Um it's like a black belt going to like a white belt class. And in the white belt, there's all peoples of all ages. And the black belt is just like help, like he comes in, he's not even wearing his belt, but like people know he's a black belt. And he's sort of like helping this white belt out and like fixing his form. And the white belt's like low-key confused what's happening right now. He's like, why is this black belt taking time to like help fix my form? So I realized like this is like it doesn't often happen. It usually happens when I catch up with like friends from high school or old friends that I haven't connected with in a long time and they've been following my content and they sort of know what I'm doing and they're a bit shy to reach out. Yeah. um, Point 21. Um, I'm glad I saved this call for after the hectic day I had today. Like I was about to schedule this like really early, maybe 5 a.m. and do it before the day started. I'm really glad that I sort of saved it because I was able to sort of save up more thoughts, um, and have more things to talk about. But I guess it's sort of like I have to listen to my gut feeling because sometimes I'm like, okay, this is something I should quickly get before the day starts. Like maybe I have an early start, like let's wake up extra early to get it done. But sometimes it just feels right to like, okay, maybe I'll do this after the long day. I guess there isn't an answer to knowing which is the better option, but I guess maybe listening to your gut feeling, and that's something I've been practicing. Number 22. So I cut my hair short. and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. And I guess like the only thing that I don't like when I cut my hair short, because like it grows out pretty quickly and it gets pretty messy. Whereas like if you have long hair, it can grow out and it wouldn't look as messy. And I could also trim it and sort of maintain it on my own. So I guess I'm gonna figure out, see, like it's been a while since I cut my hair short. So I guess I'll see how it sort of pans out as I'll grow it out and I'll try maintain on my own and see if I end up regressing and growing my hair out slowly again and like go to the barber to sort of have it cleaned up, but like basically be like, hey, I want to grow it out again. We'll see what happens. But ideally, I guess obviously the ideally like I get to a point where like money that really doesn't become like an option. I can just have someone come over to my house and cut my hair for like $70 in person every 2 weeks or something.
That'd be sick.
Yeah.
A good goal to aim for. So,
Yeah. Yeah. 23. I want to embrace. Why did I write this down? I wrote down embrace being alone because it's not going to get any easier. What was the catalyst to me writing that? Mm, maybe it's sort of like a summary of everything we mentioned on how, like, as I grow, as I keep going through this journey, I'd be naive to think things will get easier. Things, it's going to be easier to find more interest. Like, yes, technically, I guess the other side of the argument is like, as I grow, I meet more like-minded people. They introduce me to other like-minded people. I get access to more interesting people. I get better at sort of organizing things and meeting people and sort of nurturing relationships. So there's that side of things. How I could easily say, oh, like, don't worry, things are going to get easier. But based on my experience, that hasn't been the case. Um, and I think I want to embrace sort of, um, I guess, yeah, embrace sort of being alone. I guess that sounds really negative. What's a positive way to say that? Like, I want to embrace loving myself, embrace being able to fill my own cup, embrace sort of being able to stand on my own 2 feet and not lean on others too quickly. Because, like, you can have a nice, warm group of people around you, and it's easy for you to sort of let go and lean on their shoulders for you to then find out that like, hey, like after 10 minutes, they sort of like walked away and you fell on your back. Yeah. So that was number 23. Um,
um,
24, I was thinking about The Walking Dead, about the main character when he found his partner. And there was like this quote of like how like there was this villain or this antagonist that was like, hey, like, I wasn't worried about you when you're alone, but now that she's come into the picture, now I'm concerned because you two together can take over the world. And like when she said, I was like, wow, like that's really cool. Like imagine like, I don't know if it's too optimistic to think, but like finding someone where like 1 + 1 = 3, and together literally anything is possible.
um, I don't think that's too optimistic. I mean, you see all these power couples online, right? You see Layla Hermosi, Alex Hermosi, they're a great like
Yes, yes.
representation of that. And yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Because it's rare, because like,
It's
you
rare.
look at say Barack Obama and Michelle Obama, like
Yeah.
that looks like a power. And then like I guess Jay-Z and Beyonce, it looks like a power couple, but I'm pretty impressed by Mosey and Alex and Layla. That's something that I sort of definitely like seeing like, wow, that's pretty cool. Like they have each other's back, and 1 + 1 = like 10, it looks like.
Yeah, it's
Maybe
insane.
it's like a spectrum, maybe. Maybe it's not yes or no. Maybe some 1 + 1 could equal 3. Maybe some scenarios 1 + 1 = 5. In some scenarios 1 + 1 = 10.
Yeah. And I don't know, preferences of the other person as well, or of the person in the relationship. Like, do they want, because not everybody wants that sort of relationship.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know. Modern relationships are weird, or maybe, yeah, they're just very shallow these days, I feel like.
Mm. Number
Or the
20,
general population, at least.
I agree. 25, second last point. Let's see, what did I write? Oh, something like this is like a thing I wanted to try with people where like if the conversation died out and like before I start like plotting like the interesting random uncomfortable questions, uh like what if I were to be like, hey, like why don't you lead the conversation for the next 15 minutes? Like I wanted to test that, but low key, like I don't have faith that like they would be able to even ask fun and interesting questions. And like that might not like I think like in my mind I was like, oh, like that'll be fun, then they'll be able to ask cool questions, I'll be able to talk about myself for a bit. But I low key don't have faith that people like even if I did that, like it might not be as fun as I think. Uh
That's interesting.
um and then 26. I find it was something like I felt like a bit frustrated where like a lot of people still seek attention from, say, the popular person. Like they can have like a close friend right in front of them, but for some reason, I guess it's like human instincts, they still sort of seek that validation from that popular person where like this is the person that takes super long to respond. This is the person that sort of doesn't really check in unless there's something on. This is the scenario where like if this popular person tags them in a story, they're like, wow, like I feel so honored and grateful that this popular person tagged me and they repost it straight away. Um, this is the type of situation where the person low-key pouts about how like this person's so popular and they don't have time to fit them in their schedule. And like I think maybe it's not that what's frustrated me. I think maybe what frustrates me more is like, hey, like you have, say, someone like me in your life that is doing all those things, yet you're still seeking that validation from this person that doesn't really care for you. And it's sort of like as I was like in the toilet bathroom, I was thinking it's like feels like it's the quote of like nice people finish last, or people treat your kindness for granted, or like maybe I should like pull myself back and be a bit more reserved. And like all these sort of negative thoughts came in. I was like, huh, you know what? Like, fuck it. Like, I'll just keep doing me, keep being nice and not change, not try to play hard to get, not try to sort of be the popular person, not try to restrain myself, not try to make myself less available so that people can appreciate me more, but just keep doing me, keep reaching out, keep replying to interesting stories, keep sort of trying to be the type of person that I would want others to treat others how I'd want to be treated. Um, and I guess hopefully things pan out, whether I then attract people who do really appreciate me in their life, or maybe those people that do take me for granted, maybe they change and they grow. But that was sort of the last point I had.
That's um yeah, wow. I feel like I've just gotten a whole week of like just knowledge from you and your perspective on like your life and your experiences and yeah. Do you feel better when you share all this and like say it out loud as opposed to like writing it?
Yeah, I think I feel like it feels like I'm reviewing the week. It feels like I guess there is like a weight off my shoulder. I guess it allows me to sort of see things in a third lens. The biggest thing I feel like it's sort of I'm emptying the bottle. Whether like a lot of people suppress it and the bottle fills up and they explode, this definitely feels like I'm emptying the bottle. I think that's the biggest thing as I'm trying to put it to words on how I feel. Hmm.
Right. And do you think like you've kind of solved your own problems as well, like speaking out loud kind of thing?
Yeah, it is like it does really feel like self-therapy. I remember feeling really good about this, maybe episode 3 or 4. But the moment I finished the episode, there was an energy dip, or like no, maybe there wasn't an energy dip, but then I jumped on a call with a friend, and I realized I do still crave that interaction. I guess when I'm doing it on my own, this is really fun. So thanks for joining that. Like having a person here, maybe I won't have a come down after this. But I guess when doing it myself, um, I then chat with a friend, and it's like a huge dopamine hit. So I still do crave that human interaction, that human thought, especially when I'm doing these on my own. But it's definitely a good sort of substitute. It feels like drilling against a a sort of dummy versus drilling against a human, whether you're doing jujitsu or training boxing, drilling against the real person, it's always going to be fun, like having you here. And when I'm doing it by myself, I'm substituting that person with a dummy, and it sort of still does a bit of it. It still does like a solid part of the job, but I still do crave human interaction and human conversations, I guess.
Mhm. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's like bouncing off ideas, right? Instead of just, because what I do is like
Oh,
I speak to a camera, but like human air interaction like this is almost like, wow, there's actually someone responding instead of,
I was pretty happy. Like when I finished point 26, I was like, wow, and how on the dot. Like I like these episodes to be an hour. But while you're here, let me flip the table. Tell me about these cool talks you do in front of the camera. I used to do this. I still do. Sometimes I just talk to the camera and sort of document how I'm feeling that day. And it's usually stuff that is pretty like maybe it's like things I'm stressed about or things that I just I guess stuff like this, but maybe even more personal. But tell me about you talking to the camera. Is it just for fun? Is it documenting? Tell me about that.
I feel like it's quite similar to you.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
I don't know, I started doing this like a year and a half ago, and sort of, I used to do it every day, but now it's like twice a week. But it's just like breaking down like complex sort of thoughts I've been having in my mind and like just sharing it to nobody and literally keeping it like just, yeah, private and speaking to myself and with no judgment and literally like just spilling every single thought out. Yeah, I don't know. It's like journaling, but out loud. And you get to record it and someday perhaps sum it all up and see all the changes you've been through throughout those years. And yeah, I mean, some days you're crying in front of the camera, and some days you're like smiling. Yeah, it's quite similar to you, I think. Like just reflecting on thoughts.
And then do you schedule it in? When you did it daily, was there a time you did each day and now you do it twice a week? Do you schedule it twice a week or is it whenever you feel like?
When it gets to like the hitting point. Yeah, usually midweek, but it's incredible like you schedule it in because that way you're keeping yourself accountable and you have to show up each week for yourself. So, yeah, it's cool you schedule it in.
And then currently do you store it all in like a 5 terabyte external hard drive that you just travel around with you all the time? Or how do you store all this footage?
Honestly, just on my computer, because I film it on the photo
Booth?
app on MacBook. Yeah,
And then do
they're
you have
usually like 10-minute long videos.
and then my MacBook only has 500 gigabytes. I'm constantly having to
Mhm.
move things onto my
Put it-
NAS. It's like basically a cloud, but like my home cloud. Do you use like iCloud or something and have like 2 terabytes and it constantly move things over, or how do you like maintain your storage?
I, I have like four, like three hard drives, so I kind of just like transfer everything to the hard drives.
Hmm.
But you had that problem too, right? You were looking for like an online
Mm.
solution, or have you found that yet?
I've used Google Drive. Let me quickly use the restroom. I think she disconnected. That was a pretty fun session. I'm really happy. It was really cool to do with I'm starting to figure out the format on how to do it with a friend. Let me see if she's gonna rejoin. I think she's not gonna come on. All right, I'll probably wrap this up. Thanks, guys.